Hello all, I recently discovered a strange speed issue with my Macintosh SE30 and I went down a rabbit hole trying to fix it. I did learn a few valuable, interesting lessons along the way, and I also enjoyed the first fruits of 3D printing. So let's get right on with it. So I had been enjoying MacFlim on my regular Macintosh SE for a while, and there were no problems watching the films. By the way, MacFlim is a pretty awesome project, well worth checking out. Who didn't dream of video with sound on the old black and white compact Mac back in the day? As you can see here, this Star Wars clip is running smoothly without any issue. And since it's still the month of May, it would have been neat with this video out for the May the 4th and Return of the 5th. Well, let's just call it Star Wars month, shall we? My regular SE is running an old-fashioned spinning metal SCSI hard drive and is maxed out at 4 megabytes of RAM.
There are not two versions of MacFlim. This is the first one without sound.
When I had set up my SE30 and tried to watch MacFlim, this happened. As you can see, this is not great. Every other second or so, the film stops to buffer. I tried all the different settings in MacFlim and even set it to Macintosh Plus, which the SE30 with 8 megabytes of RAM should be able to handle without any problem.
I guess this is the kind of performance I would have expected if I hadn't seen it work well on a nominally slower computer. But now I'm spoiled. I want it to work on this one as well. It should work.
This is the SE30 that we installed a silent Noctua fan into recently and also swapped out the BlueSCSI and installed a much better activity LED on the new BlueSCSI. This gave me an idea about what might be wrong with MacFlim on the SE30. With the new activity LED, I could see that every time the film paused to buffer, the light came on. I realized that the issue must be with the BlueSCSI, but aren't they supposed to be at least as fast as the regular SCSI hard drive? Then it struck me that I hadn't been paying attention to the SD card in the BlueSCSI. I'd just taken one lying around. So I decided to do some speed tests on the regular SCSI hard drive in the regular SE, as well as speed tests on the BlueSCSI with the current SD card and with a hopefully better SD card. My hope was that with a better SD card, I would be able to watch MacFlim without issues. Here we have MacBench 1.1 running on my SE30 with the SD card I suspect of being slow. There are later versions of MacBench, but this one is sure to work with the limited 4 megabytes of RAM in my regular SE. I select only to run disk tests, but even so, this goes on for a very long time. Right, with this data, we'll have something to compare the regular SCSI hard drive with.
And as you can see here, the default comparison machine is the LC3.
Here I'm running the same tests on the regular SE FDHD.
And this time I've loaded the results from the old SE30 card so we can compare it.
And wow, the SD card is considerably faster.
You can see that with the old SE with the spinning hard drive at 100%, This one with the SD card is off the charts. And the different values, what they stand for, doesn't really matter, but relative to each other, we can see like if it's 170,000, it's over 360,000. 12,000 is 63,000, 96,000 is 276,000, 8,000, and so on.
But this is interesting. In the random write, the regular SCSI hard drive actually did a much better job. Maybe this is the key to why the MacFlim is lagging on the SE30.
This is true for random write 1K, 8K, 16K, and 32K, but not 128K. Then the SD card is still stronger. Strange.
Okay, so let's open it up and put the newer SD card in so we can benchmark it against this data.
I've said it before, but getting one of those Mac crackers is really a good investment if you're dealing with these compact Macs. Basically, they all need to be broken into with something really long. And I got this from an auto parts store, I think, years ago. So in order to get to the screws that holds the hard drive bay in place, it's quite finicky. You need to remove this bracket on the back where I have my Ethernet card breakout board attached. And this shield needs to come off. And then once the Ethernet breakout board is out, then it's easier to reach with the longer screwdriver down to detach the metal cage that holds the drive. They originally hold the spinning hard drive, but of course now we have the BlueSCSI mounted in it, and that's where we want to put the bracket with the BlueSCSI. With the cables and the screws removed, we can finally lift out the hard drive bracket. It does hurt me a bit to remove the BlueSCSI from this Meccano solution. It sits quite nicely there, and I will kind of miss it, but I like the 3D printed part a lot, and it'll look much neater, I guess. And here it is finally out and released from all the screws, and we can see the SD card sitting there. It's a 2 GB card that, well, as the speech just showed, I guess is questionable.
So these are the two SD cards. The 2 GB card is the one I've been using. As you can see, it's a SanDisk card, but it's lacking any markings of rating, which is a bad sign. It must be a very old card, unless it's a fake. Maybe it's a fake. The other one is a 16 GB card from Panasonic, and we see that there's the UHS speed rating of 3, which supposedly means a minimum write speed of 30 megabytes per second. That should be plenty. Here the 3D printer, a Ender 3 S1 Pro, is working away on the first layer of the bracket. So we're taking it really slowly for the first layer so that it adheres to the base there. And that really increases the chances for the print going well later on if the base is well attached to the plate. Here we've come further, and as we can see, the print speeds up considerably as we build on. Here the bracket is really taking shape with just a few layers left there on the side. Took a few failed attempts to get it right. This one I had to abort because it took too long and someone had booked the 3D printer. The back ended up really nice though, nice finish, so that was a shame. The
next time I tried, I managed to finish it, but as you can see here, it didn't adhere to the bottom properly, and so you can see the sort of plastic threads there. And I may be able to use this, but the sides look kind of wonky and not great. So, so it was third time lucky for my first bigger 3D print. Yeah, so the third try went pretty well, and we'll be putting it in this one, designed by Potato Fi. The link is in the video description. It fits. Let's have a look which holes we are going to use. I recently got some threaded brass inserts to use in another project, and I thought it would be neat to use them here in the bracket for the BlueSCSI, and we just have to see which holes I'll be putting them in. Right. So here they are. I lost the footage, unfortunately, of putting these in, but I just used the solder iron at 250 degrees Celsius and push them in slightly, and they sit nice and flush, and yeah, it looks rather neat. So here's the BlueSCSI now attached to the bracket, and it sits quite firmly, which is good. Because I'm using a socket for the BlueSCSI, the headers make the BlueSCSI too tall to sit upside down in the bracket. And so I have to twist the SCSI cable to be able to connect it. And as I can't use the normal SCSI cable that comes with the compacts, but I have to have a longer one, which is unfortunate, but well, out of sight, out of mind, right?
Now with the new SD card inside, let's run the same benchmarks as we did with the regular hard drive and the older SD card.
And this really does take ages to complete. I brought these results over from the SE to the emulator so we can see the results in color and have all the three tests side by side. So I put the new Panasonic SD card as 100%. And we could see that the SE FDHD spinning metal SCSI drive is green. The old SE SD card is yellow, and the new one then is orange. And yeah, the hard drive and the old SD card are really left in the dust.
Again, this thing here with the random write is very interesting. I wonder why that is. One assumes even old cards would be faster than a physical drive, but maybe the card is damaged somehow.
For the 1K random write there, for example, the hard drive is better than the old SD, as you can see. 7% the old SD and 12.5% the hard drive compared to the new SD card.
With this result, I was convinced that my MacFlim woes were gone. But alas. To say I was disappointed is an understatement. But then I realized something, and I felt very silly. Maybe you've been screaming at the screen for some time now. Before the most recent iteration of MacFlim, which is now super handy and with sound, the files were huge. They were too big for a regular SCSI hard drive, and also too big for the 1 GB hard drive image I kept on the 2 GB SD card in the BlueSCSI. So what I had been doing all along was to run MacFlim from the PiSCSI connected to the external SCSI bus in the back. I had been using the same drive on both computers, that is the PiSCSI, but it was only lagging on the SE30. This made me realize that the fault must be with the SE30 somehow. Not a pleasant idea, much easier to swap out an SD card. First I thought that maybe it was the external SCSI bus, but after much trial and error I located the issue to, drumroll, the virtual memory on the Macintosh SE30. It turns out that the 32 kilobytes of disk cache is enough, but with virtual memory enabled, the video is lagging. If I turn off the virtual memory, then the video runs smoothly from the PiSCSI, also on the SE30. I wanted to be able to access MacFlim permanently on the SE30, and with a new larger SD, I could make a larger system hard drive and also a larger volume dedicated to MacFlim.
This is so cool. I really recommend getting MacFlim if you have an old Mac, and instructions are provided on how to make your own films.
So what have we learned? Well, for some mysterious reason, the MacFlim does not run smoothly with virtual memory enabled on the Macintosh SE30. Does anyone else have the same experience or know how this could be the case? I'd love to know in the comment section. I guess the speed differences between the physical hard drive and the SD cards were expected, and also that the newer SD cards are much faster than the older ones. The surprising thing was the random write tests that actually were faster on the physical SCSI hard drive than on the old SD card. It does feel neat to have the BlueSCSI in a proper bracket. This machine is taking shape now. Maybe I'll try to retro-bright it even in the future. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate if you hit that like button. And if you'd like more retro computing coming your way, do consider subscribing to the channel. Take care and thank you for watching.